Okay, why invest in landscape? We've just heard this phrase, but I think it's worth repeating. When landscape is placed at the heart of the development process, communities and local businesses reap the economic benefits, which is true, and I hope by the end of today you'll agree. But we all work in this current economic climate. We naturally have to work with cost restraints and the problem of obtaining quality soils and quality materials. So we have spent 4 years now trying to address this, to give you a tool that you can help. And working with projects, we like to be ambitious with our designs, but we have to, again, work with what we have. We've tried to broaden that remit. We've tried to show you how you can manufacture your own materials, using materials already on site. We have to use the waste word, but as far as we're concerned, it's not a waste. I'm going to show you how it's going to be a resource. But also reduce costs. We have to talk to the clients in this manner. It talks their language. And yes, I'm going to be talking about a manufactured soil. Now, I don't want you to switch off at this point. I hope to convince you that by using a manufactured soil, we're not using a substandard material. Far from it. We're using a standard material that you specify. It's your job not to accept the locally available soils. It's your job to say what you want. And then it's for other people to provide it, and I hope to show you how that we can do that. The soil mix, again, we've been talking about waste, and the greatest economic benefit in manufacturing the soil by using other imported organic materials is to use what's already on site. Now, to a construction guy, and my background is earthworks, in fact, my job on the Manchester Runway 2 was to design out surpluses. Nothing left that site. So when we'd finished with the earthworks, we'd got some nice environmental bunds, we'd got some nice viewing platforms that to me was a way of designing out the waste. It was utilised in the future. But then the landscape contractor comes along and where's his soil? There wasn't any on that site. Not to complete the job, we stripped the soil, we put it to one side, but the ambitious design meant that there was a deficiency of soil. They had to go away and find it. This is Wilmot Dixon's results for 2007. They made £10 million profit that year, and they also spent £10 million sending waste to landfill. Now, not all of that was a soil, it was construction materials, but annually the construction industry still send over 8 million tonnes of perfectly clean, perfectly inert materials to landfill. It's our job at RAP to make sure that that is minimised, but it's my job here to show you how you can use it to manufacture it and use it in your soil. So we're saying to designers at an early stage, not just to landscape architects. We hope that landscape architects are employed at an early stage of the design process. It doesn't always happen, unfortunately. But when it does, we can address this issue. This issue of turning one construction guy's waste into a manufactured soil. And again, a fit-for-purpose manufactured soil. This is Ecobuild. It's now a green valley. By no means was it a green valley. It's the ex-Chorus site, tinplate works, massive area of brownfield, derelict land that is now being returned back to use with an imaginative landscape design. It wasn't always that way because of costs, available materials. The landscape architect's design was for islands of green. So we worked with them. We spent 2 years working with soil scientists to come up with a design. And we used what was on site. It's colliery shale, it's blast furnace slag, which doesn't sound attractive, but for the soils it's perfectly fit. We incorporated locally produced compost, green waste compost with this at a volume of 25%. And we manufactured the soil. We manufactured 126,000 tonnes of soil. That was for trees, shrubs, grasses. We write all of these cases up. I'm whizzing through them because I am here at lunchtime to answer any questions that you have, and all of these case studies are available. But the question is, does it work? Well, yes, it does. This is now in its third year. No fertilisers applied, no herbicides applied, and yes, it does work. So the case for cost reduction. Another example here is in Chorley. It's an ex-munitions factory. The topsoil was heavily contaminated. It was not fit for purpose by any means. It was disposed of off-site. But they were left with a development scheme that needed soil, no soil on site, so they manufactured it. Again, using organic material delivered to site, but only 25% of the total volume. They used the subsoil that was on site. One pile there is compost, the other pile is subsoil. It was manufactured to standard. It was manufactured to the BS 3882 standard. But here, instead of disposing of the material off-site, the surplus material, and importing soil, at £15 a tonne, they manufactured it for just over £5 a tonne. That's the cost saving. That's the saving that you can get by using the materials on site. But you need a mind shift. You need to regard these construction people's waste as a resource. This is more of a light touch. This is an ex-colliery site near Warrington. It had been like this for over 20-odd years. Colliery shale, acidic. But this is a land trust development here. They didn't want to import subsoils and topsoils. They wanted to improve the local species, but with not very much soil. So we, again, work with Liverpool John Moores University. It's a light touch. This is only spreading of 30 millimetres at the surface and power harrowed into 120 millimetres. But it gave the kick that it needed. We seeded it off with a wildflower meadow mix to give it a start. But again, in its third year, biodiversity has improved. And importantly, the costs. Instead of spending £2.25 a square metre by bringing in the soil, they only brought in the compost and the agricultural equipment, and did it for 28 pence a square metre. This is now being rolled out throughout many of their restoration projects. The sustainable approach. This design here was for a 1.5 metre profile for trees. That was what the end result wanted. And here again, they used colliery shale on site. The bottom metre of that profile is 50% colliery shale, 50% paper crumb waste. At the surface is where the organic material is. It's where the nutrients are. Again, now in its fourth year, good establishment, using materials that's already on site, manufacturing the soil to the designer's specification. And in this phase of the job, saved £400,000. Again, this is a construction site in its early forms. This is my hometown of Sheffield. It's the Forge Master Steelworks, and in the centre of this area, there was no scope for raising levels or creating mounds to try and get rid of what is this surplus material. 70% of that surplus material was used with the compost from a local producer, and we manufactured it to the designer's specification. So again, they only brought in 25% of what was required for the final landscape scheme. It's now an award-winning project. There are many and varied uses for this manufactured soil. I can't go into them all here, but there are many. We've worked with housing schemes, green roofs, sports surfaces, flood alleviation and forestry, all with different specifications. They all don't need the same soil. They all need different soils, but at least you can manufacture the soils to suit your client's needs. Highways, embankments, innovative use of compost here to eliminate soil erosion, quick establishment of vegetation, and waterways. Green roofs. Intensive green roof, no, doesn't need a lot of nutrients, doesn't need a lot of organic matter, but increasingly now extensive roofs are requiring some nutrients in there. So we've worked with the Sheffield University and the Green Roof Centre to produce their code of practice, which does allow the increase in nutrients and shows how you can do it, and the light touches with wildflowers. So, the main reason here today is to give you a taste of this. Now, you sat there, am I going to use it? Am I going to specify it with my client who's demanding? Well, use us. We've now written up all of these case studies, 65 of them, produced a good practice guide, which you can see there, and we have copies here. And we're available to help you use this tool. And the main reason for this tool is to say to your client, what do you want? You give it them, but also work with the waste. Now, okay, the gold route that runs through the centre of my hometown in Sheffield didn't need very much soils at all. But some of the large-scale projects here do need soil, and they need a fit-for-purpose soil. So don't be constrained by the lack of the materials. Try and consider other people's waste, which is perfectly fit for your purpose. Be aware of this manufactured soil and return on your investment. And again, I'm still here. Myself and my colleague will be here at lunchtime. We can work with you. If you've got any questions, by all means ask them. But we can go into more detail later on at lunchtime. Thank you.
Paul, thanks very much indeed. It is actually riveting stuff. It's amazing, and the Wilmot-Dixon figure is extraordinary, the 10 million quid.
Can I say, on Wilmot-Dixon's behalf now, they're a zero-waste company. They're heading in the right direction. They're an exemplar because they learned about it.
And I'm reminded of, not very far away from here, of course, is the Beckton Gasworks site, and I was looking at that years ago, and we knew it was poisonous, and there was a lot of stuff growing on it. We knew it was poisonous because all the rabbits had blue feet from the cyanide on site, those that were still alive, obviously. So there we are. Paul, thanks very much. And of course, Paul will be back with us at lunchtime for his workshop on waste management and recycling.